All right, everyone. It appears now that the FBI may have known that there were questions with regards to the Steele dossier before the FISA warrant was actually issued. That is, before the FISA court ever got the Steele dossier and issued their rubber stamp, sent it off to Rosenstein, who supposedly didn't read it before he signed it because he was just ignorant at the time. He washed his hands of the situation because he realized it was a hot potato. So he pretty much lied to Congress, but there he's going to get away with it because he agreed to go up on stage with Barr and with a straight face basically say, yeah, sorry folks, I fucked up royally. The Mueller report is above board, which it is, but he probably would have wanted to throw Trump under the bus to save face, but he gets his pension, so it's okay. It looks like now at least one individual raised concerns about the content, the validity of the Steele dossier before the FISA court signed off on it. Now, what's the problem? The problem is that the FBI in testimony to Congress said that's not the case. No, we had no question. Any questions we had about the validity were after the FISA was already issued. The probe had already begun. We were already conducting, the probe had already begun, or the groundwork had already been laid. Rosenstein had already inked the paper, and then we had concerns. We realized, oh shit, the Steele dossier came from a foreign intel agent who had certain partisan affiliations, that it was op research, and that it never should have gone before the FBI to begin with, because the vast majority of the content there is a pile of steaming bullshit. And we should have known that, but we didn't, so, we're really, really sorry. That was their official story. Basically, we're not culpable, we just didn't know. Turns out that they should have known. It turns out that within the intel community there was at least some question at the time. Why weren't those questions addressed? Why weren't those concerns brought up to Rosenstein? Why weren't those concerns brought up when they put it before the FISA court? Because it was a partisan fucking witch hunt. Because it was a hit job. By that time, it had been taken by partisan individuals within the intel agencies and fronted to FISA, knowing damn well they were going to rubber stamp it, probably without themselves reading it either. The idea of a FISA court is that the FISA court is an unconstitutional and technically extrajudicial court system administered by the government to grant itself warrant powers where a normal court would not grant them. That's essentially what it's been turned into. The initial idea was, hey, we're dealing with a lot of classified shit, we're dealing with weird constitutional issues of national security, we can't put this in a normal court. It has to stay very secretive, so we need to handpick who's handling it, we need things to be redacted, we need the intel agencies to have, this ability, because otherwise we're going to end up with people using their legal teams to prevent us from even investigating. We're talking high-level mafiosos and terrorists and stuff like that. That's the initial goal of the FISA court. What it became, though, is just a weaponized judicial system that rubber stamps anything that comes across. The idea now is, hey, it's coming from the FBI or the CIA or something, we know we can trust them, so 99% of the time they grant it. And it's literally, it's more than a 99% rate of them saying yes to warrants that are supposed to be issued, that the FBI and similar groups want. I think there have been, the number that they've rejected in years and years was barely in the double digits, if I remember. Wasn't it less than 20? I think it was like somewhere in the mid-teens. And this should have been one that they refused to issue the warrant on. You have an op research piece, a hit piece made by the Clinton campaign by a fucking British former intel, not even an American, bouncing articles off of one news source to another and using Wikipedia to make a dossier that's literally full of nothing more than anecdotal bullshit that's easily disproven in most cases. He gives it through partisan groups to the Clinton camp. He gets paid for that. He gets hauled in and shit like that. The Clinton camp, at some point, some mid-level fucking Clinton staffer got the bright idea that this dossier could be fronted to the FBI. You know what I think? I think the FBI had connections with the Clinton camp directly. I think that at least mid-level agents were already part of the campaign. Because they wanted her elected, because she would give more unilateral powers to the surveillance state. Because she's a police status. She likes the idea of spying and shit like that. It's basically, I'll let you run roughshod over the Constitution. Yeah, if I'm elected, you have carte blanche, do whatever you want. As long as you keep in mind, you owe me a couple of favors. Get off my back, let me launder my money, let me embezzle and maybe have people killed. That's the Clinton way, basically. So then they took it, and they fronted it, they bring it to the FBI. Oh, wow, look at this shit. Trump is in bed with Russia, and he does crazy shit with Russian hookers, and sits around in his pajamas watching, porn and stuff like that, and he, Sieg Heils when he takes a shit and calls it Obama. Literally, the weirdest shit you can imagine is in the dossier or was joked about being in the dossier. The Pissgate thing was the ultimate in weird shit. Somehow the FISA court, whether it looked at this or not, thought it was serious because the FBI hadn't told them it came from op research. That's the problem. But apparently some people within the FBI that had access to it did question it. The FBI lied. So Comey lied to the American people. Or not Comey, Rosenstein lied to the American people. People within the Justice Department and the FBI should have known that there were problems. And again, this conforms to my belief that at some levels it was nothing more than a communications breakdown. I'm willing to believe plausibly that Rosenstein, for all of his all too obvious ineptitude, didn't understand because these issues weren't raised by the heads of the FBI when they fronted it to FISA. So FISA never told him. They just put it before his desk. Again, not knowing that it was op research, not knowing some people in the FBI understood that it was bullshit. Rosenstein never knew. I actually feel sorry for Rosenstein at this point. I think he got hoodwinked. I think Mueller got hoodwinked. Honestly. Who cares if Mueller testifies? Let him testify before Congress. What's he going to say that we haven't even heard yet? I don't understand Trump's hesitance. He's kind of waffled on that one. He's like, yeah, he should testify. No, he shouldn't. I don't care. You know, that's the typical ambiguity of Trump, so that in any situation he has plausible deniability. He's very good at that A/B testing sort of stuff. It's really remarkable how he manages to get away with it so often. As far as the FBI goes, though, we need probably some sort of investigation into what actually happened. And I don't mean just Barr talking informally to Mueller and maybe bumbling around the halls of the Pentagon asking random people what the fuck happened with the Steele dossier. I think something more official. The problem is, who you know, the fox is guarding the henhouse, so to speak. Who exactly is going to investigate the FBI? Who investigates the Federal Bureau of Investigation? Who do you bring in to do that? Who has the power and the connections other than the intel community itself, which appears to have been systemically inept or possibly corrupt in these proceedings? We know that there was some degree of partisan corruption there. We know that because it came from op research. It went from the Clinton camp to the FBI somehow. Who handed it over to them? Was it Sturzock and Page? Who exactly gave the documentation to them in the first place to trigger them looking into it? And who exactly, what other people could have possibly said, hey, you know, maybe this isn't real. This seems a little bit over the top. Where did this come from? Why did nobody ask what the origins of the Steele documents were? Why did nobody ask Steele before they sent it before the fucking FISA court? I mean, it gets weirder and weirder. It is bigger than Watergate, but it's not bigger than Watergate because Trump did anything wrong. It looks more like a systemic failure of our entire intelligence community, with a lot of corruption and partisan bullshit sprinkled in. That's about all. Peace out.